The children were guided by their dead parents. When tragic circumstances disrupt a family, oftentimes the after effects are more damaging than the tragedy itself. One such tragedy befell Arlene and Donald Seath. Their parents were killed in an automobile accident when they were barely in their teens, thrusting them into the world as hapless orphans. They were never able to get over the loss of their parents. As a consequence, they rebelled against every effort their relatives made to help them. "We don't want your help, and we don't want your pity," Arlene screamed at the uncle and grandparents with whom they had gone to live. "Donnie and I would manage pretty well if you all would only just leave us alone. Isn't that right, Donnie?" Donald readily agreed with his older sister. He had been drawn closer to her and she to him since their parents had died, and in the confines of their tightly knotted relationship, they had somehow sublimated their frustration at not having the love and understanding of parents by looking to each other for comfort and solace. When the children were 16, 17 years of age, Arlene announced very calmly that she and her brother were fed up with being told what to do by people who were not their parents and who had no business bossing them around. With the proceeds of a trust which had been set up for them with the insurance money, there was enough for them to live on if they took an apartment by themselves. Their grandparents and other relatives threw up their hands in dismay and stopped trying to get them to listen to reason. Arlene and Donald rented a small two-bedroom apartment near the high school to which they went, and all seemed to be going just fine for them, but the guilt for having disobeyed and shown their relatives such disrespect began to tell on them. Before long, Arlene and Donald were at each other's throats. She complained that he did not help her enough, and he complained that she was always trying to boss him around and treat him as if he were her son instead of her brother. As time passed, the flights became more frequent. Then one afternoon, after Arlene had come home from school, she accused Donald of being lazy and careless because he had not made his bed before leaving the apartment that morning. Donald had had about enough of that, and when words would not express the way he felt, he resorted to violence. He hit his sister in the eye and knocked her out. Arlene went into hysterics and screamed that she was going to kill herself. "Go on, who the heck cares?" he yelled after her, slamming out of the house. When his temper had cooled, he returned. It was past the supper hour, and although he was sorry, he still felt somewhat angry because of the way she had been treating him. As usual, Arlene was keeping the supper warm for her brother. She stood aside in the kitchenette as he entered, glaring and tapping her foot. He ignored her and sat down. When he happened to look up and see the ugly shiner he had inflicted upon her, a pang of guilt stabbed at him. He stammered an apology, and Arlene burst into tears and then ran into her bedroom. Nothing he could do or say seemed to help. "You ought to be ashamed," she cried. "Hitting me after all I've tried to do to keep what's left of our family together." Donald calmly got out and went into the kitchen. He closed the window and carefully weighted some towels under the doors. Then he turned on the gas and sat down at the table to wait until the fumes took effect. After a while, Arlene smelled the gas and came rushing into the kitchen. "What do you think you're doing?" she cried. "Are you crazy?" He laughed in her face. "Yes, I must be crazy to put up with you. What good am I? I might as well be dead. Who cares if I live or die? You said yourself that I was no good and lazy." Arlene plumped herself down into a chair opposite him at the table. "Okay, I'll die with you," she announced, taking a deep sniff of the gas fumes. As they sat facing each other, stubbornly and foolishly defying themselves and life, too, Donald said, "This is the best thing for us to do, don't you think?" Arlene shrugged. "What's the use of living anyway? We'd both be better off dead. Mom and Dad don't know how lucky they were, getting killed like that. One minute they were here, and next, poof, gone like that." At the mention of their deceased parents, tears began to shine in Donald's eyes. He bit his bottom lip and averted his face so she wouldn't see. After a while, Arlene asked, "Do you feel sleepy yet?" "I'm beginning to get drowsy and lightheaded." He turned to look at her. A grim expression was on his face. "I don't feel a thing." Gradually, the room began to appear blurred to both of them. First, Arlene rubbed her eyes, then Donald did likewise. "You sure this is what you want, Donnie?" "Yes, I'm sure." "You don't care? I mean, really don't care?" Donald, his head beginning to feel heavy, shrugged and murmured, "What's the difference?" Suddenly there was a voice in the room. It was a familiar voice that caused them both to look up in surprise. Expressions of awed incredulity masking their faces. "You do care, Donnie, you do care. and you don't want to end your life this way, the voice said. Arlene choked back an outcry. Daddy, she gasped. It is you, isn't it? Half rising from his chair, Donald froze, squinting and trying to clear the fog from his brain. He was trying to peer through the haze that seemed to swirl all about them, attempting to speak at the same time, but no words formed on his lips. He was gaping at the two indistinct shapes which were standing in the shadows. Dad! He finally managed to stammer. Is it you? Dad! Mother! Mother! He shouted suddenly, bursting into tears. At the sound of her brother's weeping, Arlene began to cry. We can't see you. Are you really there? Is it really you? In God's name, please, please, please talk to us. There now, children, they heard their father's voice speak. Stop acting like babies. You're almost grown up now, and you've got a wonderful future in store for you. Is this any way for my daughter and son to behave? You know this isn't what you want. Neither of you really want to die, now do you? Sobbing and half blinded by his tears, Donald admitted, I don't know what I want, Dad. Since you and Mother died, nothing's been worth living for. It's all been so pointless. No, my son, the voice said gently. There is a point to it all. You want to live and your sister wants to live. You want your mother and me to be proud of you, just as proud in death as we would have been in life. And we were just as proud, Don, even though we're not there to share the laughter with you. We still are with you in spirit. Don't you know that? Don't you know that, Arlene? Unable to speak coherently, Arlene sobbed. Yes, I do know it. I do. Then she showed herself up from the table and stumbled toward the stove, where she hastily began to turn off the gas jets. Reeling around us through groggy and unable to get her bearings, Arlene pitched forward with her arms extended and somehow managed to find the window. She seized it and threw it open, turned and cried, Daddy, are you still here? Are you? Yes, I'm still here. Is Mother with you? Yes. Talk to us, please. Talk to us. Won't you, Mother? Listen to your father, children. Always remember that. As the intensity of the emotions burst forth, brother and sister wept uncontrollably. Let this be the last time either of you ever attempts anything so foolhardy again. Their father said, Will you promise us that? Yes, oh yes, they chorused. Very well. And what else will you promise? Donald was only able to mutter in a shaky voice, To help each other, to stop fighting. And what else? The voice of their father inquired. To plan our lives like you always wanted us to do, Marlene said, her body convulsing from deep, shuddering sighs. We're proud of you, children, don't ever forget that. And even when you moved away from your grandparents to live by yourselves, you showed spunk, and we like that too. Although we would have preferred for you to have stayed with them, but it wasn't like home, so you did what you felt you must. We understand. We love you. Be happy. Above all, plan to live long, full, and rich lives. As suddenly as they appeared, the spirits of the father and mother vanished. Suddenly, a cool breath of life-giving air swept into the room from the open window. The fog cleared from the youngsters' minds, and they found themselves staring at each other through their tears, alone together in the room, unable any longer to restrain herself. Arlene threw her arms around her brother and hugged him. It was as if they had been apart for a long, long time and had just found each other again. If Arlene and Donald had actually seen a supernatural manifestation of their deceased parents' spirits, or if the hysterical state of their emotions and the narcotic effect of the gas had caused them to hallucinate or conjure up a hypnotically induced dream, is of no consequence. The important thing was that they saw, heard, and obeyed, and they continued to obey, as is evidenced by the high scholastic attainments both subsequently achieved in high school and later college. Moreover, there is no doubt that they will go on to live out 2 full, rich, and rewarding lives.